Hey guys, welcome back. Welcome to the wonderful world of inspirational women in history. Today we're going to learn about three more amazing, wonderful, inspiring women that have done so many things that we can never take for granted. Are you ready? Let's go. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Miss Bree. I'm an educator, a farmer, an illustrator, a singer, and a proud grammar nerd. Welcome to the Farm School. Now, first up, we're going to talk about Grace Hopper. Grace Hopper was born in 1906 in New York City. As a curious child, she once took apart 7 alarm clocks just to see how they worked. Her mother didn't scold her. She encouraged her curiosity. Grace loved math. She earned a PhD in mathematics from Yale in 1934. At a time when very few women earned doctoral degrees, especially in math. When World War II began, Grace felt called to serve her country. She joined the U.S. Navy Reserve and was assigned to work on one of the earliest computers, the Harvard Mark I. At the time, computers were massive mechanical machines that filled entire rooms. Programming them meant writing complex mathematical instructions, line by line. Now, most people saw these machines as glorified calculators, but Grace saw something much, much bigger. In the early days of computing, programmers had to write instructions in complicated numerical codes. Grace believed there had to be a better way. She had a radical idea. What if computers could understand words instead of just numbers? Many colleagues told her it was just impossible. Nobody could do that. But Grace built the first compiler in 1952, a program that translated human-readable instructions into machine code. This breakthrough allowed programmers to write commands in English-like language. And later on, she even helped develop COBOL, Common Business-Oriented Language, one of the first widely used programming languages. It allowed businesses and governments to automate payroll, banking systems, and records. Her work made computing accessible beyond scientists and engineers. She once said, "The most dangerous phrase in the English language is 'we've always done it this way.'" Grace Hopper challenged assumptions and changed the digital world. Grace Hopper is also often associated with the term debugging. In 1947, while working on a computer, her team found a moth stuck inside a relay. They taped it into their logbook and labeled it the first actual bug. But more importantly, Grace spent her career making complex ideas understandable. She would hand audiences small pieces of wire, each about 11 inches long, and explain that this was the distance electricity travels in 1 nanosecond. She made abstract concepts tangible. She rose to the rank of Rear Admiral in the U.S. Navy, one of the highest-ranking women of her time. In 2016, she was posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Every time someone writes code in a language that resembles English, they are benefiting from Grace Hopper's vision. She didn't just work on computers. She helped to shape how humans communicate with them. Grace Hopper proved that innovation begins with asking, why not? What an amazing woman. Now, next up, we're going to talk about Boudica. So, in the 1st century AD, or BCE, Britain was not yet one unified country. Okay, so we're going way back. It was a land of Celtic tribes, each with its own leaders, warriors, and traditions. Among them was the Iceni tribe, located in what is now eastern England. Their queen was Boudica, known in older texts as Boudica. She was tall, fierce, and commanding. Roman historian Cassius Dio described her with long red hair flowing past her waist and a powerful voice that could carry across a battlefield. Her husband, King Prasutagus, ruled the Iceni as an ally of Rome, but when he died around 60 AD, he left his kingdom jointly to his daughters and the Roman emperor, hoping to protect his people. But Rome did not honor that agreement. Instead, Roman officials annexed the Iceni lands. They publicly flogged Boudica. They assaulted her daughters. They seized property and humiliated tribal leaders. Rome expected submission, but instead it created rebellion. Boudica did not grieve quietly. She gathered the Iceni and neighboring tribes, calling them to rise against Roman rule. Her message was not just revenge, it was freedom. Ancient sources say she rode in a chariot before her army, her daughters beside her, delivering a speech that stirred thousands. She declared that she fought not as a noblewoman seeking power, but as a woman defending her homeland and children. The rebellion moved swiftly. Her forces destroyed the Roman city of Camulodunum, modern Colchester. They burned Londinium, now known as London, to the ground, and they even devastated Verulamium, modern-day St. Albans. Archaeological layers of ash still mark the destruction today. Tens of thousands perished. For a moment, it seemed as though Rome might lose Britain entirely. But Rome was not easily defeated. Governor Suetonius Paulinus regrouped his disciplined Roman legions, and in a final, decisive battle, likely along Watling Street, the Romans used superior tactics to overwhelm Boudica's larger but less organized forces. The outcome was devastating. According to Roman accounts, as many as 80,000 Britons died in the final battle, and considering the population at the time, that's devastating. But Boudica refused to be captured. Some accounts say she took poison. Others say she fell ill and died shortly after. But her body was never definitively found. Rome remained in Britain for nearly 400 more years, but Boudica was not ever forgotten. Centuries later, during the Victorian era, she was reimagined as a symbol of British resistance and strength. A statue of her stands near the Houses of Parliament in London. A warrior queen frozen in motion, chariot raised, daughters beside her. Boudica's rebellion failed militarily, but it succeeded symbolically. She became a reminder that even empires can be challenged, and that even in ancient times, women led armies. Sometimes history remembers not only who wins, but who refuses to kneel. And lastly, today we're going to talk about Margaret Hamilton. Now we're coming back into the 20th century here. So Margaret Hamilton, Margaret Hamilton was born in 1936 in Indiana. As a young girl, she loved solving math problems and thinking logically. She originally planned to study mathematics and eventually pursue graduate work in philosophy. But, as it usually does, life had other plans. In the 1960s, computers were enormous machines that filled entire rooms. So this was about the same time as Grace Hopper was working in computers as well. Now, programming was still considered a secondary task, not, quote, real engineering. It was often assigned to women because it was seen as clerical work. But Margaret didn't see it that way. She joined MIT's Instrumentation Laboratory, where she began working on software for NASA's Apollo missions. At that time, The idea that software could determine the success or failure of a mission was still new. Margaret believed software was not an afterthought, it was mission critical. She insisted on treating it with the same rigor as hardware engineering, even coining the term software engineering to give it professional legitimacy. On July 20th, 1969, the world watched as Apollo 11 prepared to land on the moon. Inside the lunar module, something went wrong. The onboard computer began flashing alarms, 1201 and 1202 error codes. The system was overloaded with unexpected data. Buzz Aldrin read the alarms aloud. Mission Control scrambled. Had the computer failed? But Margaret Hamilton's team had already designed the software to prioritize essential tasks. When overloaded, it would automatically discard less important processes and focus on the most critical one, landing. The alarms weren't signs of failure. They were signs the system was doing exactly what she had designed it to do. And because of that foresight, Apollo 11 landed safely on the moon. Her code, stacked in a famous photograph taller than she is, which you saw on the previous slide, helped guide humanity's first steps on another world. Now, Margaret Hamilton didn't just write the code. She changed how engineers think about systems. She believed in anticipating human error and building safeguards into software, what we now call fault tolerance. One story illustrates this perfectly. During testing, her young daughter accidentally pressed the wrong button, simulating a scenario that could have disrupted a mission. Margaret suggested adding protection against that error. She was initially told it wasn't necessary. Astronauts would never make that mistake. But later, a similar error almost occurred during a mission. Her instinct was right. In 2016, Margaret Hamilton received the Presidential Medal of Freedom for her contributions. Today, every smartphone app, airplane control system, and space mission depends on the kind of structured, reliable software architecture that she pioneered. Margaret Hamilton helped to land humans on the moon, but more than that, she proved that software could shape history. When we look at all these women, queens and scientists, activists and artists, many, many more, it seems like their lives have very little in common, but they all refused to accept being told no. So think about this as you keep going, okay? And I want you to think about, what would you do if this were you? So I'm so glad you guys came to this video, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.